Welcome back, guys, Stoic Podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern connection. Have you ever wondered why most compliments feel empty, while a few rare words can spark real, lasting attraction? In this episode, we uncover the top 6 forbidden compliments backed by ancient Stoic philosophy. These aren't pickup lines. They're genuine, powerful observations that speak to a woman's character, mind, and spirit, and why that makes you truly irresistible. Hit subscribe and join us as we explore how timeless Stoic wisdom can transform your words and your relationships.
So, have you ever wondered why some people just seem to captivate attention, like, effortlessly, while others, they kind of struggle to make any real impression?
Oh, absolutely. It's a common experience.
And what if, the most powerful words, the ones that really connect, aren't the ones everyone expects? The usual compliments you hear all the time.
Right. The great hair or nice shoes.
Exactly. We've all done it. You say, nice shirt, and they just sort of nod, maybe smile politely, because honestly, they've heard it a million times before.
It doesn't really land, does it? It's almost like complimenting someone on, breathing. It's just there.
Yeah, not exactly groundbreaking.
It's a fascinating question, though, and it's actually something ancient philosophers, like the Stoics, spent a good amount of time thinking about. They were really interested in what truly builds, strong, virtuous connections between people.
Okay, that's exactly where we're going today. We're doing a deep dive into something pretty unique. Forbidden compliments.
Intriguing name.
Right, our mission here is to unpack 6 specific really effective compliments. And these are rooted in Stoic wisdom. The idea is they can help foster genuinely profound emotional connections.
And for anyone less familiar, Stoicism isn't just about being, emotionless, right?
Not at all. It's an ancient philosophy, really focused on cultivating virtue, wisdom, inner peace, often by understanding what's truly in our control versus what isn't.
And we're looking at how those old principles can actually maybe transform our modern interactions.
Precisely. And let's be super clear right from the start. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games.
No, definitely not. That's not the Stoic way at all.
It's about genuine observations, things you actually notice, but delivered with sincerity and, crucially, the right timing. It all comes back to that Stoic belief in authenticity and, virtue above everything else.
And that word forbidden.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It doesn't mean they're, taboo or inappropriate.
No, not in that sense.
It just means they challenge the superficial way a lot of communication happens. They kind of cut through the usual generic flattery.
Yeah, they speak more directly to a person's deeper sense of self. And doing that, it shows a kind of emotional intelligence, maybe even confidence. That's pretty rare.
It really does. It requires paying closer attention.
Okay, so with that groundwork laid, let's pull back the curtain. Let's get into these 6 insights, starting with the first one. And this one might really make you rethink your go-to compliments.
Exactly. Let's jump into the first one. And yeah, it might be a bit surprising because it pushes back against the most common type of compliment,
which is appearance, right?
Yeah.
Complimenting how someone looks. So common. But you're saying it's often less impactful. Why is that?
Well, think about it. Appearance is often fleeting, it's external, and people, especially attractive people, hear about it constantly. So instead, the idea here is to compliment her intelligence, her wisdom, specifically by observing how she approaches difficult decisions.
Okay, how would that sound? Give me an example.
You might say something like, I really admire how thoughtfully you approach difficult decisions. Most people just react, but you seem to actually think things through.
I see. I admire how thoughtfully you approach difficult decisions. It's specific.
It is, and the power there comes from acknowledging something the Stoics called Proharesis. It's a bit of a technical term, but basically it means our inner faculty of choice, our judgment, our ability to reason and choose our responses.
Okay, so our core ability to choose.
Right. The Stoics believed this is the only thing truly within our control. It's our most authentic self. So when you compliment how she thinks, her process, you're honoring that deepest part of her agency, her wisdom and action.
Not just the outcome, but the process itself.
Exactly. That's why it hits differently. It's not just you're smart. It's I see how you are smart, and I admire that specific way your mind works. You're acknowledging her as a complete person with agency beyond just surface attraction.
That makes a lot of sense. It feels much deeper than nice dress.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the second one. How do we get past something generic like, wow, you're so strong?
Yeah, you're strong can feel a bit empty sometimes, can it?
Totally.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative?
A key here is, again, observation over time. Watching her emotional landscape, how she specifically handles tough situations. Not just one event, but patterns.
Okay.
So you might say something like, I noticed how you handled that difficult situation last week. You didn't let it break your spirit, but you also didn't just pretend it didn't affect you. That kind of emotional honesty while staying strong. That's pretty rare.
Okay. So you're acknowledging the nuance, not just strength, but honest strength. What's the deeper impact there? Why does that resonate?
Well, it touches on her, let's call it, philosophical sophistication. The Stoics, they understood resilience not as like suppressing feelings or being numb.
Right, not just toughing it out.
No. It was more the ability to feel things deeply, authentically, but still choose a reasoned, virtuous response. Maintaining composure, not by ignoring pain, but by integrating it with wisdom. So your observation points directly to that very Stoic distinction. It shows you see her complexity, her evolution as a person, not just some static ideal of strength, but a real human navigating difficulty with grace and honesty.
I like that, seeing the journey in it. Okay, compliment number 3. This one's about her unique perspective. How does valuing someone's viewpoint show respect and maybe even confidence in the person giving the compliment?
This one's really interesting. It works because you essentially position her as a teacher, someone you're secure enough to actually learn from.
Okay. How does that sound in practice?
You could say, the way you see situations is, wow, it's fascinating. You notice things that just completely escape other people, myself included sometimes, and it honestly makes me question my own assumptions.
That's bold. Makes me question my own assumptions.
It is, but think about what it communicates.
Yeah, what's the principle there?
It really demonstrates a core Stoic idea that wisdom can come from anywhere, from anyone. You're showing genuine curiosity and intellectual humility. You're valuing her thoughts, her insights, seeing her as an intellectual equal, maybe even superior in how she sees certain things.
And that subverts expectations, maybe.
Totally. It challenges those traditional, sometimes unspoken dynamics. It shows you have a secure sense of self. You're not threatened by her intelligence. You're actually drawn to it. You're open to learning. That's attractive.
Okay, I can see that. It requires real confidence to say that genuinely.
Yeah.
All right, 4th compliment. This touches on something we all do, presenting different faces to the world. How can a compliment show you see past that social mask?
Yeah, we all have our social mode, right? This compliment dives right into that complexity. It shows you've noticed the difference between her public persona and maybe her more private, relaxed self, and that you value the latter more.
So what's the line?
It could be something like, I love how different you are when you're completely comfortable versus, say, when you're in social mode, the real you, when you let your guard down. That's so much more interesting than the version you maybe think you need to be for other people.
Whoa, that's quite observant and potentially very intimate.
It is. It's impactful because it signals, I've been paying attention closely. You're distinguishing between her public self and her private self, and crucially, you're saying you prefer the real her.
And how does that tie back to Stoicism?
From a Stoic view, you're valuing her internal character, her integrity over external appearances or social approval. You're appreciating her true self, not the facade, that kind of psychological depth. It creates incredible intimacy because you're valuing her genuine character.
That feels like a really significant connection point. Okay, number 5. This tackles changing your mind. Our often treats that like a weakness, right? Flip-flopping.
Yeah.
What do the Stoics think?
Yes. The Stoics saw it very differently. For them, intellectual flexibility, the willingness to examine and refine your beliefs based on new evidence or reasoning, that was a core virtue. It was a sign of wisdom.
So the exact opposite of how we often frame it.
Pretty much. So you'd recognize her ability to evolve her thinking. The compliment might sound like, it's actually amazing to watch how you've evolved your thinking on X topic. Most people just dig their heels in,
Right.
But you actually change your mind when you get new information. That kind of intellectual flexibility is, frankly, incredibly attractive.
It really makes you rethink that whole fear of looking indecisive, doesn't it?
It really does, as if sticking to an old, maybe wrong belief is somehow stronger.
Yeah.
So this compliment, it acknowledges her, again, philosophical sophistication. It shows you value growth over stubbornness, wisdom over ego. It directly challenges that cultural idea that consistency, even flawed consistency, is always the highest virtue. Instead, it highlights the strength in adapting, in seeking truth.
That's a powerful reframe. Okay, 6th and final, forbidden compliment. how do we acknowledge someone's broader positive influence, like beyond just how they affect us?
This one zooms out a bit. Instead of focusing just on your interaction, you focus on observing her positive effect on the world, on the people around her.
Yeah, give me an example.
You could say something like, I've noticed, how people seem to light up when you're around. It's not just that you're friendly, it feels like something deeper. You have a way of making people feel genuinely seen and understood. That's a really rare gift.
How does recognizing that wider impact build a deeper connection with her?
Because it shows you're seeing her role in the bigger picture, in the social fabric, her influence on others. You're recognizing her as a force for good, beyond just your personal relationship. It touches on the Stoic idea of sympathia, the interconnectedness of everything.
Sympathia, interconnectedness.
Yeah, the idea that one person's virtue can kind of radiate outward and benefit the whole community. So by noticing her positive impact on others, you see her as someone who really matters in the broader world. That's a profound form of recognition.
Wow, okay. So these 6 compliments, they're clearly not just clever lines you can memorize, are they?
Oh, absolutely not.
The delivery, the how, that seems critical. How do the Stoics guide us there? Because that feels like where the real power, or maybe the potential pitfall, lies.
You nailed it. The delivery is everything. And the Stoics would emphasize, above all, timing, sincerity, and authenticity. These only really work as genuine observations that arise naturally from your attention. They cannot be calculated moves.
Right, you can't fake this level of insight.
You just can't, which means these aren't first date compliments. Or even second or third date, necessarily. They require observation over time. They require actually getting to know someone's character on a deeper level.
So they need to feel truly organic, like a realization you're sharing.
Exactly. The delivery should be natural, conversational, like a quiet revelation, not some big performance. And remember, the most powerful compliments, these kinds especially, aren't just about making someone feel good in the moment.
What are they about then?
They're often about helping someone see themselves more clearly, holding up a mirror to their own wisdom, their own strength, their own virtue, maybe in ways they haven't fully recognized themselves.
That's a really profound, so what? Contributing to their self-understanding.
That creates a unique kind of intimacy. And the giver's state of mind is critical too, as you implied.
How so?
Well, delivering these kinds of compliments authentically requires a certain level of emotional maturity and self-awareness from the person giving them. It demonstrates self-security. You're not saying these things out of neediness or desperation for approval.
We're not trying to win them over with a line.
Precisely. You're simply recognizing and appreciating qualities that most people probably miss. And that inherent confidence, that Stoic self-possession, is often attractive in itself.
Okay, so given how deep these go and the need for authenticity, are there any common pitfalls, mistakes people should actively avoid when trying to apply these insights? Because it feels like they could be misused easily.
That's a really important question. Yes, there are definite traps. First, and most importantly, do not use these as a technique or a strategy. If you find yourself thinking, okay, which of the 6 should I deploy now? You've already missed the entire point.
It has to come from genuine observation.
Genuine, unforced observation. That's non-negotiable. Second, don't expect immediate dramatic results. These aren't magic words. They build deep connection over time. Think of them as investments in the relationship, not quick fixes.
Okay, patience is key.
And third, perhaps obviously, don't use them if you don't truly know the person well enough. They require actual insight into their character, their patterns, their way of thinking. A guess based on superficial knowledge will likely fall flat, or worse, feel insincere or even creepy.
Right, that makes total sense. So the overall power of these forbidden compliments, as we're calling them, it really boils down to their rarity and their authenticity, doesn't it? Especially today, in a world that often feels quite superficial.
Exactly. They stand out dramatically from the noise of everyday, generic flattery. They build relationships based on something much more solid, mutual recognition of character, of virtue.
That's right. In a sea of, you look nice, genuinely recognizing someone's deeper virtuous qualities, that feels like a precious gift.
It is. The Stoics really believed that true connection, true friendship came from recognizing virtue in others and ideally having our own virtue recognized in return. It's about building that shared foundation of respect for what truly matters beneath the surface.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the key takeaway seems to be that these forbidden compliments aren't just about complimenting others differently. They're really about genuinely seeing and appreciating others on a deeper level.
Yeah, and maybe mastering these is fundamentally about mastering yourself first. developing your own emotional intelligence, your confidence, your observational skills, and the wisdom to actually recognize virtue when you see it.
Well, that's a powerful thought. Our relationships are, in many ways, just reflections of our own depth.
That really is the core message, I think. So maybe the actionable takeaway for you listening is this. Practice observing. Just try to observe the people around you a bit more deeply in your daily interactions.
Like the Stoics encouraged us to observe ourselves.
Exactly. Challenge yourself to see beyond the surface level. Try to appreciate the complex, evolving human beings you encounter every day.
And this isn't just about romance, but this applies much more broadly.
Oh, absolutely. This approach to genuine observation and appreciation, it can create more meaningful connections everywhere. Friendships, family, even professional relationships. It's really about having the courage and the insight to acknowledge depth where most people only bother to see the surface.